people ask me what is healing, and my first reaction, even though I've been training in it since I was 11, is I don't know. Because really, the part of us that does the healing and the part of us that is healed is not the part we're usually familiar with. It's not the sort of the everyday self who is all involved in all the details of life. And the part of us, that part of us is the bit that doesn't believe we're ever going to die. It's the false part, you know, what people call the ego. And healing is about bringing you back to the core of who you are, which is your soul, if you want to call it that. You might want to call it the subconscious. Because when you come back to your soul, when you come back to you, who you really are, rather than the pretending self, the bit that acts in the world, everything balances from the core outwards. It just does that. Nature wants to balance itself. You know, everything wants to find homeostasis. When the surface self, so to speak, is really strong, which it is with most people, to the point where my impression is a lot of people don't even realise they have a soul anymore. It's all surface. When that's strong, the soul is left unheard. It's left isolated somehow, and therefore cannot influence its. It cannot influence the body. It can't influence the mind. It can't influence the emotions because it's cut off from it. You've cut it off. So the art of healing is to bring the person or bring yourself back to your soul. Once that happens, everything kind of resets itself on its own. Now the Oriental tradition, which is what I'm mostly working off, I also train in humanistic existential psychotherapy as well, and shamanism and other things too. But my main basis is the Oriental system. I started learning Japanese style energy transfer method, went on to eventually become a doctor of Chinese medicine using acupuncture and so on. You can, with this system, you can influence the pathways between the soul and the body and the mind and the emotions, and then by extension and your life and all the events in your life, all your situations, quite specifically. That's what's actually really interesting about it. They understand how your liver, for example, produces a certain state of mind when it's overheated or tired. They understand how the heart produces a certain state of mind, and so on and so forth, and how these then affect everything else in your life. They also, somehow or other, had ascertained that there were these particular energy pathways in the body which, when stimulated, would actually accelerate the process of bringing you back into your core, right, instantaneously. So the art, taking all that stuff out of it for a moment, the art is to help the person you're healing, or yourself if you're working on yourself, and you have to be working on yourself anyway, to find themselves in a state of absolute peace, here and now, in the moment. And peace means at peace with the idea that you are going to die, not the idea, the fact that you're going to die. Peace with the idea that all the stuff we usually concern ourselves with, the money, the status, the prestige, the convenience and everything else that we try and put together for ourselves in the world, is really just kind of ephemeral. It's not it. It doesn't matter. It's completely just stuff. It's movement. And to be at peace with that rather than be grasping at it and getting anxious about it and excited about it, just to be able to be at the core of you and know in the moment that everything is okay here. There is nothing lacking. I used to do a lot of work with the Bristol Cancer Centre, and as a little treat, they'd always give me a session with the healer there. They had a healer there. And she was a lovely old lady, and used to lie on the bed, put her hand on my heart, and she'd stay there for about an hour like that. Now, I was always very aware when I was there that it could be me that had cancer. How would I feel if I was dying of cancer now? And in that time that she had her hand on my chest, there was no fear whatsoever. The idea of dying was fine, because I knew that the part of me that would die doesn't exist anyway. It's just an illusion. That's that surface self. But the soul, my inner being, that she was touching because she had that power and that consciousness herself, that is, you know, it's eternal, it's in the moment. So all the fear of dying goes away. Then with that, all the fear of living goes away. And when that goes away, you're free. And in that freedom, you're living what you'd call a healed life. Healing comes from the old German word heilen, which means to make whole. So it just means restoring you to your actual state of wholeness. The fragmented effect, that is the opposite of wholeness, doesn't really exist. It's just an illusion connected with, yeah, with the echo of, well, actually it is. It's the echo of the soul. It's the soul pinging itself out all over the place, and out of that comes what we call an ego. And out of the ego, that's what we start believing we are, but we're not. In other words, at the point that the ego is seen as just being that, because you've got the soul to see it from, there is healing. And out of that comes symptoms clearing up, a general state of more vitality, and so on and so forth. People also ask, does healing, how do you know if this is the lifetime you're going to get healed? Maybe this lifetime you won't get healed. Say somebody who has a stroke and is never going to be healed. Well, that's just silly, really, because of course life is a fatal thing. I mean, you're going to die from it. We're all going to die in the end. Everybody's going to die, and healing is not about avoiding death. You can't avoid death. Of course, we're going to die. Healing means being at one with all of it. And even the disease and the pain, and everybody has disease and pain in them, everybody, to varying degrees at varying times. It means being comfortable with it, being at one with it, rather than in resistance to it, so that you're loving being alive for every moment you have to be alive. That's actually what healing means. It's not the same as operating on someone or giving them drugs to cover things over so they don't feel symptoms anymore. You can do that as well, that's fine, but that's not healing. That's just covering stuff over, cutting things out. Healing means being at one with whatever is happening, and then life becomes a full-on adventure down Miracle Lane. Don't know if I can think of anything else to tell you about healing right now, except that it can be a lot of fun. That's the other thing. I think it's really important. People think of healing as being sort of like healing. It's like going to the doctors. It's like a dour thing to get involved in. You've got to be all really serious and po-faced about it. It's to the contrary. Healing's a laugh. I mean, it's fun. To come back to your soul is fun, and laughter is a big part of it. Laughter, my Chinese medicine teacher always said that laughter was the most important medicine of all, because actually it just flicks the diaphragm and gets it all moving, gets the energy moving, gets you breathing, gets you flowing again. And that is the last thing I'll say. The effect of the healing is your energy is flowing. When your energy is flowing, you feel it. You don't feel blocked in the mind, you don't feel blocked in the emotions, you don't feel blocked in your life, you just feel flowing. That's it. That's what healing's about. Bringing you to your soul and getting you flowing again.